Chris, why don't you have final say, and we'll move on to the greater DCU.
I'll
And I'm
use
sorry,
this.
Chris. I love you so much.
You don't need to apologize for anything.
But I
Mr.
want-
Baby,
Not at all.
we're glad you're here.
I'll use what I want to say to segue us into the broader DCEU conversation. Okay,
Please.
let me tell you. Just to set the table.
All right.
Let me share some of my favorite memories as a DC Comics fan. 4 years old at Six Flags Magic Mountain at the Batman '89 stunt show.
Oh my
I
gosh.
see my hero for the first time in the flesh. It's a shamanic moment for me. I am transfixed. He's at the top of the
Quite a
bleachers,
word.
and he comes down over my head to save us from the Joker. I was in a Batman story in that moment. I
Oh,
get
man.
chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It forever set me on a path to be devoted to Batman, and then later to the DC Comics universe.
That's cool.
I'm 7 years old, and I have just moved to a new state, and I'm sitting alone in
The
my
green
room. Everybody's gone to bed. I had just brought a VHS tape of Batman
Where's this
Forever
going?
home with me. And I remember just kind of sitting there being afraid. And then I look at that tape, and all of a sudden, unfamiliar dark. As I'm laying there, I hear the voice of Kevin Conroy in my head saying, "Don't worry, I'm in the dark." And I go to
Woo.
sleep.
Damn, bro.
I'm grabbing as many blank VHS tapes as I can because I know every Saturday morning on Kids WB, the new Batman Superman Adventures is going to be on. So I pop a tape in. It's before my parents are even up. And I record every episode that I see for weeks on end, making sure that I'm stopping when the commercials are there so that when I inevitably watch them later, I don't have to fast forward through anything. Seeing Batman Begins for the first time, a revelatory experience that leveled up my understanding of what it means for true artistic cinematic guidance to be applied to these characters in a way that I had never seen before. So going back 10 years ago, starting with a foundation that is built on the world's greatest hero in Superman, my expectations are through the roof. We are just barely a year removed, not even a year removed from the end of the Dark Knight trilogy. Nolan's name is attached to Man of Steel in a certain respect, and hoping beyond hope that this leads to a new ongoing cinematic conception of the DCU, because we're 5 years deep into the MCU by this point. I want my universe to be represented that way. Man of Steel comes out and it thuds for me. It takes a while to thud for me, but too much attention given to the word hope and not enough feeling of the emotion of hope. That was my first experience watching that movie. But 3 years go by and debate after debate, and oh no, it's all going to build into the sequel. Lots of people died at the end fight. It's all going to come around again. It's all going to pay off in a way that Superman's going to be truthful to who he's been in a way that he wasn't in the first movie, and everything is going to make sense. Then BVS comes out as that, reliving my time as that kid who voraciously taped those episodes of the Batman Superman Adventures, and getting as many comics as I could get my grubby little hands on to see these two guys. These are the top tier, best characters ever committed to fiction in my mind here. Mm-hmm. So when that movie comes out and it wholly misunderstands who they are, my perspective.
Yeah.
I can't really give you in words the level of not just like disappointment in a movie, but this profound, it's like the roof fell in on the house. This is the vision that's going to drive this. This is the conception of these heroes that not only I love, but that I really believe in. It's just so amiss. So by this point, I'm kind of checked out of this conception. You know, we get a hint at what the League is going to look like, and that was cool. But it became very clear to me walking out of this movie that this isn't the DC universe I know. So whatever comes along, if something fun happens, if something truthful happens, I'm gonna be thankful for the fact that I enjoy it. And then, you know, then this comes out and it's okay. You know, it's kind of fun. I didn't have
Well,
any
we're gonna talk about this here in a minute. That's all I
level
gotta
of
say.
expectation for it. So, you know, it was a glorified trailer for 2 hours. And I think
Nice
that's kind of
poster.
what ended up happening is that
I resent
trailers
that
ended up-
remark.
and but hey, it was edited that way. It was legitimately edited by a trailer house.
Yep.
But that doesn't
So
mean
that's what it
it
comes
doesn't-
across as. It's
I
still
disagree
fun,
100%.
and I love I love Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. That
Yeah.
is probably, in my mind, the single greatest contribution that the DCEU made to DC
The
Comics
best
cinema is her
casting of the DCEU.
of the entire universe.
And currently, I think the greatest actress currently working at a consistent pace. Viola
Yeah, I
Davis.
mean,
Thank you,
I
Chris.
I'm not gonna argue.
wouldn't-
I'm not gonna argue that.
So then this comes out, and there's a ray of
Oh.
hope. This is, for my money, the best DCEU movie.
That's right.
I was legitimately shocked at how much this movie felt not only truthful to who Diana is, but also just the care and attention that went into it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I enjoyed this more than a lot of other people did. I recognize the seams, they're visible as all hell. You could see they stick out like a sore thumb. You could see how it's a patched together haphazard mess. But what it gave me was something that this didn't give me, which was a truthful conception of Superman.
Yeah.
And arguably, you know, in some cases, a slightly more recognizable vision of Batman, though Batman got the shorter end of the stick in this movie. And then, you know, this one, it's great. It's fun. It is wholly informed by the performer, and that's okay. But, you know, I'm not going to dispute what Justin said. Does this feel like a Peter David Aquaman, or even a Jeff Johns Aquaman, or a Grant Morrison Aquaman, or even a Paul Levitt's Aquaman? No, it doesn't. But I feel like they could have gotten there if this conception of the character was pushed a little bit further. I had fun with this one.
Yeah.
I actually really had fun with this one. Even
Bingo.
though it's
My man.
quite a bit of a deviation, and I miss Babs in my heart in a movie that's called Birds of Prey. And I'm not a huge fan of the Harley Quinn character, but I love the Huntress. I love Black Canary. You know, not a very recognizable vision of Cassandra Cain, but I liked the role that
Yikes.
he played. And
Yeah.
Sionis. It's a pretty fun conception of Black Mask, even if it's not quite the vicious gangster that I've come to know. It's
Yeah.
weird because it's truthful in certain respects, particularly in the way that the storytelling goes, but with certain characters, it picks and chooses very much from the source. But you'll never find a better cinematic representation of Gotham geography than Birds of Prey. Look at all the maps. It's a lot of fun. I also like this one more than a lot of other people did because it felt hopeful. It felt like it was trying to say something about, it's kind of similar to what Johns is saying right now in Geiger. You know, the world can be a crappy
Yeah, dude.
place. That doesn't mean you have to be a crappy person.
Geiger
And I
rules, by
appreciate
the
that.
way.
And more hope here. You know, we get more Amanda Waller. We get a really interesting depiction of Peacemaker. Rick Flag actually goes halfway close to being a hero. King
Yeah.
Shark. This is a fun and you know, it's pulled from a lot of different directions with the DC mythology that it uses. I had a lot of fun with the Suicide Squad, particularly the stuff that it led to later. Loved Peacemaker too. Peacemaker is not a character that has an abundance of modern characterizations, so Gunn took advantage of that and crafted something
Yeah, he sure did.
pretty unique. And then, you know, with this, it's okay. By this point, again, I hope you're starting to see that as things go, if it's like my expectation is down, well, you can't see right now, but my expectation is down here for most of the movies. And then when something good comes along, I'm like, oh, that was cool. Maybe it'll lead to something better later. Best thing about Black Adam is I got to buy a Justice Society t-shirt at a place that wasn't a comic book shirt store, or, you know, whatever you might say. Zack Snyder's best DC Comics film, hands down. He should have had control of it from beginning to end, if I'm being honest. And as someone who has been and remains critical of his work on those first two movies in particular, he did bring it home in a way that I found satisfying, but it was also too little too late. And it also wasn't canon. This is not a canon entry in the DCEU. The 2017 film is. So everything that came after this, when you hear the events of Justice League reference, it's referencing the 2017 movie. This is effectively an Elseworlds, but it's cool Elseworlds, and it's a well-crafted movie, and it brings the characterizations home in a way that I found personally satisfying. This was fun. It was okay. It was not the first movie, and my wife kept complaining that Zachary Levi looks like he takes Ozempic now, and I can't focus on anything else. But I liked the movie. I thought it was fun, and it was just kind of nice, but it was not remarkable. You know, it wasn't remarkable in a way that the Suicide Squad was. Certainly Wonder Woman. I also like this more than other people did. But again, you know, we're getting into the senioritis phase of the DCEU. I'm reasonably okay with saying goodbye to this conception of the characters because we know by this point that it's going out the door. My perspective going into The Flash was to hope for the best. And considering all the crap that went on from behind the scenes on this movie, I'm shocked that it turned out as good as it did. You know, the internet seems to have tried to canonize this movie as legitimately terrible, and I just don't see that. But, you know, I respect people's perspectives. But this one was a DC comic come to life. This was the one that made me feel like, wow, this is like a post-Infinite Crisis movie. It makes reference to the entire legacy of the Blue Beetle in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And the brand of comic book action just felt extraordinarily truthful to the DC universe that I know. I can't recommend Blue Beetle enough. And then this one, you know, again, senioritis. I am glad that I enjoyed what I did from it. But by this point, with everything that's happened, with everything that I've been through on the roller coaster of seeing my favorite shared narrative universe adapted with such a lopsided pedigree, I came out of the theater smiling, and I call that a win. Even if I recognize it doesn't come anywhere near the best examples of this movie or comic book cinema in general. So this was a wild ride with a very poorly built foundation, and it's time to let it go.
All right. Well, I'm with you. Mr. Baby.
That fired me up, man. Shout out to Mr. Clow, dude. I've done a lot of shows, man. There's no one as well spoken
I'm
as you.
Sorry,
man.
I spoke for so long.
That was
good.
You're good.
It was a fantastic, unlike the DCEU, it was a fantastic foundation to this conversation because you started with why being a fan is important and why these films have a lot more weight to them than the general audience would ever understand. So, heck yeah.